And good morning, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Boquete Now Talk Radio. We have a special show. It's a crossover show, and we are here with Dr. Shannon Tour from Talking with Your Doctor.
Good morning, Al. Good morning, John.
And we have John Derry with us, who you're the owner, founder and owner, correct, of Serenity Vista, which is our local addiction and rehab center. This is going to be a really, really informative show. We have a lot to talk about, and we only have an hour to do it, so I'm going to skip the news this morning. Just go to my Facebook page. You can read all the COVID stuff on there. This show, Boquete Now, is sponsored by Big Daddy's Grill and ACC Boquete. Linda and Joe Hart and all the folks over there, they're a fantastic charity. They do amazing work in this town, so they are our newest sponsor, thanks to Chris Young. So we welcome them aboard. Linda, if you're listening, hello. So anyway, let's get right to this. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
If you out there have not heard of or weren't aware that there was a rehab center in town here, John's going to hopefully maybe you can give us a little history of how it started and what brought you here to provide this service for us.
Well, thanks. Thanks for inviting me to be here.
Not that I'm putting you on the spot or anything.
Yeah. Well, that could be a 5-minute or 50-minute story. I guess first of all, helping people with addiction is my passion.
Yes.
It feels like it's my calling. It's what I feel like I'm meant to do in life. My wife and partner in all this, Jane, shares that passion with me. And I had a career for, I did the math just the other day to add it all up, 22 years in pharmacy as a clinical pharmacist.
Okay.
So I know a lot about medication.
Sure.
My career was around toxicology, drug information, adverse drug effects, drug safety. Wasn't a traditional pharmacist working, and so I was working in major teaching hospitals and universities. And I developed a real interest in addiction. And I found a way of living sober myself. I'm 23 years sober this year.
Sweet.
And that became a life calling for me of wanting to help people, wanting to pass on the gift of hope that I had found. I love the work that I did in pharmacy, but it felt like I was going through a transition where I wanted to do more of working directly with people, of helping people, and addiction is what I know the best. And so I left the pharmaceutical world and I went to Minnesota and did graduate work at Hazelden.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Did my master's in addiction counseling at the world-leading Hazelden Center. Research, education, treatment, world-renowned. And I learned a lot there and really found that was my passion. When I came back from Minnesota, I initially started a private practice of working with people, on a outpatient basis, 1-2 hour a week session kind of thing. And I quickly realized that addiction is so powerful and so pervasive and takes over every aspect of an individual's life.
Yes.
You might work together for an hour in a session, and before you know it, the hour is over, and they go back to their same environment, do the same things with the same people, and come back a week later, and there they are. So it became clear to me that I wanted to work with people on a continuous basis, and it evolved into the vision of starting this kind of a facility. I initially started it in Kelowna, British Columbia.
Oh, okay.
And that's where I met Jane, and that grew and was successful. It's a bit of a unique model. We can talk a little bit more about that. And then we came to a transition where bylaws in the community were changing and home-based businesses weren't allowed in the part of the municipality that we were in any longer. So we started looking for a new home. And we started looking in British Columbia, and then on the east coast of Canada, on the west coast, and then all of a sudden Jane and I just looked at each other and it's like, we could go anywhere in the world.
Sure.
And so we just opened ourselves to the realm of possibilities, which we teach people, and Panama just kept showing up.
Yeah.
And we came
As
here.
it does for a lot of us.
Yeah.
We gave away or
Especially
sold
Boquete.
everything we had, and we sailed here. So that in itself was a huge
You
adventure.
sailed
You
here.
sailed.
We sailed here. We still have our boat. That was a huge adventure. We could
Yeah, I bet.
have a
You
radio
can do a whole show on
alone.
that, right?
I can't imagine. It's like.
And we found
Wilson.
Boquete, or Boquete found us, and we
Yeah.
love it here. This is
Yeah.
our home. Canada, of course, will always be home. That's where our children
Well,
and
yeah.
grandchildren are now. But we love it here, and we feel blessed to do this work. And yeah, so Serenity Vista is a manifestation of that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Shannon, you want to, just to clear everything up here, I know that we've done shows before, but this is more of a collaborative effort,
Right.
you know, thanks to John agreeing to be here. I've been actually trying to get someone from your place here, and I asked Art a couple of times, and, you know, he's like, well, I'm not really sure, you know, et cetera. So thank you, seriously, from both of us for being here.
Yeah, we
This is-
appreciate it.
This is such an important issue that it's kind of one of those issues that stays in the closet. You know, you really.
It's
there's-
hush hush. Nobody wants to really put it
like,
out there.
It's like mental illness.
Yeah.
You know, there's a stigma,
Stigma.
attached to it, and that I think prevents a lot of people from seeking the help that they really need. You know, so.
But also, people tend to believe that it's just street drugs or just alcohol. That's not the only type
No.
of addictions that exist. I mean, you know, prescription drugs are really,
Well,
really
yeah.
pervasive.
So, you know, part of our goal, I believe we share a common goal, is to destigmatize addiction and destigmatize mental health. And, you know, it's for the benefit of people who really need the services that you provide so they can, you know, improve their lives and you know, become sober.
Well, you're absolutely right. It's very prevalent. It's one of those. It's a disease, but it's one of those diseases that has a stigma to it, a social stigma.
Yeah.
Most people don't want to talk about it, but once you do start talking about it in a private kind of a setting, it's amazing. Hardly anyone we talk to that at some point in the conversation won't reveal that someone that's close to them has suffered from addiction.
Absolutely.
Family member, close friend, relative,
Yeah.
aunt, uncle.
It's just
mom,
not
dad.
talked about. You just
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
talk about that in polite society,
Yeah.
I guess.
And one
And
of the,
absolutely, it's simply a
Yeah.
disease. And when you recognize it as a disease, it has symptoms, it has treatment protocols, it has outcomes that are predictable, and people can recover.
And
How did-
one of the reasons I'm glad that you know, when Shannon had contacted me about doing the show together is that I don't have the qualifications to speak on this from a medical point of view. You know, I've had personal experience with it. I have testimonies. I know people. Blah blah blah, but I don't have the knowledge to ask questions and to discuss things. And this is why I'm really glad that we're getting a chance to do this.
Yeah, and he's got the experience on the radio, and he knows how to keep things moving. So we're kind of we're good. We're good here.
Yeah. So you know, I'm gonna just sit back here for a few minutes, and it's Mike's yours, man. Just
All right.
do your thing. Take me down.
Do my thing, huh? Well, I guess I'm curious. How do patients initially get to you? How do they contact you? Is it usually a family member? Is it the patient themselves?
Well, that's a good question. We just try to. There's a principle in Alcoholics Anonymous called attraction rather than promotion. We try to do the very best that we can, provide what we believe is an awesome, comprehensive, holistic service, and increasingly over time, just like you have found us and asked us to come on the radio, people are finding us. The majority of people who come to us find us on their own. They've come to some crossroads in their life. They've come to some point where they realize, if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm going to lose everything that's important to me. You know, they might have had a horrible fight with their spouse, or they might have crashed a car, or they might have had an ultimatum from their boss, if you come and hung over one more time. And they start realizing that they need some help, and they start looking. And usually it's either through word of mouth or finding us on the internet.
Now, you mentioned holistic, and holistic basically means you don't use medications and stuff in the treatment. Do people already come to you like detoxed? Do they come with you with their own medications already prescribed? How does that work?
Yeah. Well, you know, that's part of the myth of addiction too. Addiction isn't just the guy drinking out of the vodka out of a brown paper bag under the park bench, or the guy laying in the gutter with a heroin needle in his arm. We like to refer to it as an equal opportunity disease. Every demographic, every walk of life, and there's a continuum. And we are focused mainly on helping people that have not got to the stage where they need to be hospitalized. The vast majority of people who come to us do not need to go through a medical detox.
Okay.
Most people with addiction realize that they can, and here's part of the illusion of it, of the illusion of control, is people think that they can stop, and they have it under control because they prove it to themselves over and over again. The alcoholic who can stop for a day, a week, a month, a year, and see, I've got it under control. But then the madness starts again. They pick up a beer at a barbecue, and 2 weeks later they're drinking vodka again, and they don't know what happened. So we tend to help the people that can stop, but don't know how to stay stopped, and live with peace and contentment of mind and heart.
Okay. In other words, they're not normally coming to you in a withdrawal type of state. They're people that can stop without having those horrible withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah. Occasionally people are having withdrawal symptoms, and if they need medical care, we help them to get it either in their local community or here before they come into the center.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you, basically, when the patient comes to you, or when the client, I should say, not patient, client comes to you,
They don't need
they
medical.
don't need medical for the most part.
Yeah, other than sometimes, a Tylenol for a headache or something like that.
Right.
Isn't that the excuse me? Isn't that the ideal situation to be able to recognize that you need help, or at least come to the place where you maybe even begrudgingly before you get to that point where you need actual medical intervention.
Yeah. It's a chronic, progressive, if untreated, ultimately always fatal disease. It always is. It's chronic and it's progressive. But we like to use the saying, you don't have to take the garbage truck all the way to the dump. You can get off.
Yeah, right.
And Serenity Vista is an off-ramp.
Yeah. We're just for perspective, is your location public knowledge, or are you in a place where you would rather not tell people where you are?
Well, we do indicate on our website where we are, but we don't broadcast that. We don't have a neon sign out front that says drug rehab.
Right.
We really respect the privacy and
Fantastic.
confidentiality of the people who come to us. And some people come, fairly high reputations in their own communities, and that's one of the attractions of coming to Panama, to Serenity Vista. In the first few years, the majority of the people who came to us came from Canada and the United States. The last few years, it's starting to shift as we get more and more known in Panama, and especially since COVID reopening with MNSA approval after being closed, almost everyone who's come to us, except our current cohort, have come from Panama City. So we're getting more and more Panamanians, and oftentimes well known in their communities, and they want their privacy respected.
And that's
Definitely.
totally understandable.
It's that way in all different branches of medicine too.
Yeah.
Well, the
You
fact
don't-
that the fact that you're getting, Panamanians in that indicates to me that there's some sort of a paradigm shift in the way that Panama views or handles or deals with addiction.
Right. Addiction is mostly in Panama handled by psychiatrists or addiction specialists if there is one, and that's kind of a more difficult thing to find, but they do exist in Panama City. There are rehab programs and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there are English-speaking ones too, but not really the same thing.
Not to the effect.
Not culturally.
No.
Culturally, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, and historically, like the Dr. Carlos Smiths of the world, for those that need inpatient treatment, there is a little bit of treatment, SETA in Panama City, but it's not.
It's not. Yeah.
It's basic, and some get referred historically to North America, Miami, and so on.
Because here you don't have most of the medical treatments that are available in the States, and the methadone clinics you don't have here, and other types of treatments that drug medical type treatments that are available in the States we don't have here either. So any detox is basic also, it's control the symptoms and that's it.
Yeah, there's no medication assisted therapy long term like Suboxone and naltrexone and so on for opiate addiction.
No, that's used in emergencies if you can find it for an overdose. Yeah. But, it's getting better. It's getting more recognized that there are
Absolutely.
these problems in
Yeah.
the country and that they have to have other things besides
Yeah.
psych units to,
Yeah.
to get people off of substances.
Yeah, yeah, we're finding that we're being very embraced and welcomed by the professional community. We're becoming increasingly known in the psychiatric world and addiction field in Panama City in particular, and we're getting more and more referrals. And you had asked about holistic. Yes, it part of it is not treating a drug addiction with a drug, which is a little bit counterintuitive to us.
Right, right.
Transitionally, medication-assisted therapy can be very beneficial.
Exactly.
Coming off of an opiate, for example, and we had talked about that.
We did.
But long-term substitution therapy, long-term Suboxone or methadone, that's a bit of a philosophical argument.
Yeah.
And it does not align with our school of thought.
It's kind of replacing one opiate with another
It
opiate.
can be. And
Yeah.
we've had actually people come to us coming off of Suboxone, having been on it for years in North America, and see that has become their addiction.
Yeah.
I was going to ask
come off.
about that. Is that,
Yeah.
the medicine that's used?
It's addictive.
Okay.
But
okay.
you're giving it at a lot lower doses. I guess they start you at a higher dose and then they kind of bring you down and they try to control it. It's kind of like, legalized drug use. So they're trying to control how much you use, how much
Yeah.
you're getting, and keep you off of the the
And,
illegal
and for
stuff.
some people, it's beneficial.
Oh yeah, can't argue against that.
But clearly, the rehab programs are ideal rather than that. From what I'm getting here is what you do and the treatments that you have
Yeah,
bypass that. Well, let's just replace
yeah.
one
because
substance for another.
Substance abuse isn't just a physical addiction; it's also a psychological type of addiction. Something to cover up something in your life, or something to get you through the day, type of thing. There's a reason behind why some people use. Not everybody is like that. Sometimes it's just
You're absolutely right, Shannon. That's an important aspect, and that's part of what we refer to with holistic body, mind, and spirit. So, yes, we use a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy. We have two-hour therapy sessions every day at Serenity Vista, except Tuesdays on the afternoon we go to the Haven for massage and yoga.
Ooh, that's
Saturday's recreation day. We go out and do different kinds of recreation. We're going e-bicycling tomorrow with Vinny's group.
Yeah.
That's always a good outing. Last week, zip lining up at Boquete Tree Trek.
Oh,
so
man, I wanna
we
go
try to
there.
have we try to have the week experience be. We don't try to just preach to people that you need to have balance in your life and you need to have some recreation and you need some meditation and yoga and holistic measures, meditation. We actually have them experience it. So it becomes very experiential. And yes, there's core cognitive behavioral therapy every day. 12-step philosophy is very much a part of our thinking as well and the way we help people. So body, mind, and spirit, very much spiritual orientation of helping people explore their spiritual connection to whatever their concept of a higher power is, not religious at all.
I was going to ask you
Yeah.
about
Not religious at all. We're very careful about that. We welcome people of any religion or faith or lack thereof or agnostic. But it's so much of addiction recovery is getting out of self. Shannon referred to having something inside. One way to conceptualize addiction is as a disease of feelings. There's something inside that I'm not wanting to feel. So I'm going to use a substance or behavior, gambling, sex, workaholism, exercise to extreme. I'm going to use a substance or a behavior to change the way I feel because I'm not even sure why, but there's something deep inside I don't want to look at. And the more that you use a substance or behavior to change the way you feel, more that becomes almost a way of living. And that's how you experience life, is through the modulating your feelings with going into and out of withdrawal. Not using for a week. Is modulating your feelings. If you're an alcoholic and you don't have a drink for a week, you've got some real strong feelings going on. And you're looking forward to that next drink. And then you have that drink and the relief, right? So it's playing with feelings. And so getting back in touch with your feelings is so much of what we help people
Well, you
with.
also need the coping mechanisms, because that you're not using that to cope anymore with not only the feelings but the outside world that's bombarding you.
We have feelings for a reason, and it's getting back in touch with them and helping them to become a useful and helpful guide to our lives rather than something we want to avoid or anesthetize or modulate. And whatever that is in there, because we work so closely with people and intensely, and we get to know them really well, and that's unique about Serenity Vista. We work right now with a maximum 3 people. Jane and I live there. We have breakfast and dinner with them every day. And then we have other counselors and therapists that come in as well, but we're always there. They get to know us, we get to know them. And those deep hurts, often trauma, will come out, and we help them heal from it.
You know, it's interesting that you brought up not just substance abuse, but behavioral. So I don't think a lot of people realize how closely, you know, those are related. You know, we've all known people in our lives that work 150 hours a week, you know, and maybe they have problems at home, you know, or whatever, but obsessive compulsive behavior, I don't think a lot of people realize how closely related that
Absolutely.
is to substance abuse.
And it's sometimes not until in retrospect that you look back. Like, for example, in my life, prior to recovery, I used to run every day. I used to run 10Ks, marathon, whether it was minus 40 or plus 40 Celsius.
Yeah, well,
I'd be out there, right? And now it's about finding a life of balance, of peace and contentment, and experiencing life on life's terms, and finding peace and joy in whatever life presents. And sometimes life presents some pretty tough challenges
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with that? And so when people come to us for anywhere between 45 and 90 days, it's not just what we teach them, we help them to learn to experience it. Things come up, conflicts with a roommate, anger that comes up with an assignment that they've been given.
Right.
How do we deal with that? Let's talk it through. And
so you provide coping skills that can be
Absolutely.
used, you know,
Life-living skills.
once you leave. You know,
Well, you have to have something to replace the substance or the behavior that
but
that
it's
was
got to
being
be
used.
something positive, though.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
And it's much more than just a replacement. It's a complete shift, a paradigm shift of how you experience life. Yeah.
And generally, when they get out of your program, obviously not everybody is able to make the adjustment and stay in the program. But have you found after your clients get out of the program, do they keep in touch? Do they let you know how they're doing?
Well,
Do
those
they
are-
have follow-ups?
There's a number of questions embedded there, and
Oh,
they're all
sorry.
very good ones.
Was that too many?
No, that's
Once?
great. That's what we do.
Well, you're right. Traditional rehabs, probably almost 50% of people will leave early. Either leave on their own accord or get kicked out.
Yes.
We're about 90%. The vast majority of people that come to our program are highly motivated. For someone we just had someone come from Ontario in the time of COVID. Had to get a COVID test, fly internationally. We had been recommended to him. He could have gone to a local rehab in Ontario and had it mainly covered by his health
Right.
insurance in Ontario, right? But he chose to come here because he saw that we were a bit different, a little bit unique. We were recommended, so people are highly motivated when they come. And they embrace the program and do very well. So the vast majority of the people complete the program, and when they leave in their last week, we help them to design what we call a design for living. It's like an aftercare plan.
Right.
It's very comprehensive, but they write it, and they make commitments to themselves of things that they're going to do to sustain and to grow their recovery. And a lot of them do keep in touch with us. We put the onus on them to keep in touch to whatever extent they want to. We don't chase after people.
Right.
But before they leave, we always help to set them up with some kind of support in their local community.
That was kind
to
of my
actually,
question, yeah.
to
Yeah, I was thinking
actually
about that
through
too.
bridging the gap through Alcoholics Anonymous, for example, find someone that is willing to take a phone call and talk to them before they go and set up a coffee date.
Right.
So that
Like a
the
sponsor
day
type
after
of
they
thing.
get off the
Yeah.
plane, they've got a commitment to meet so-and-so for coffee, and they immediately feel that they're supported where they are, and that's so important.
Yeah, yeah, because you're going back home, back into the old situation you were in. Most people stay in the same place they were.
Do the same things with the
Yeah.
same people, you get the same outcome.
Yeah, but you know what? Without the service of an addiction rehab, just the act of relocating isn't enough. I'm guessing it helps because you're not going back to
You don't have the
those
same connections, but you're
this-
going to look for the same
but
type
you're
of
going to look
relationships.
for the same. Yeah, without that.
And some people have very supportive family dynamics to go back to, and we get to understand that before they go. We often will work with the families and encourage them to get some counseling, some therapy.
Make sure they have a safe
go
place
to
to go to.
Al-Anon for
Yeah.
family members.
Yeah.
It's the same principles as Alcoholics Anonymous, but it's for family members. Highly recommend that. Al-Anon.org.
Yeah.
And
really,
it
really good
exists here in
information.
Panama,
and
too.
good, and very strong in Panama City.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Panama City. I know there used to be.
And they're on Zoom now. You can go to Zoom
Yeah,
meetings.
yeah, they're on Zoom.
AANACA, Al-Anon.
When I was a
Plentiful.
medical student, we would go there and we'd just sit in on the meetings so that we could learn a little bit more about the program.
Yep.
And we'd bring them snacks and that kind of thing. We'd just sit in and listen to their meetings. We learned a lot.
You learn a lot.
That's the way to
Absolutely.
learn. Yeah.
Yeah. And in some cases, people come to realize through their 45 or 90-day program that the environment that they're in was not supportive, that they do need to look at a different environment when they go back. And if that's the case, then we will help them find some kind of transitional living, sober living. We had a young man 3 years ago from New York who came to us and on one of our recreational activities, we went horseback riding in Caldera, and he just loved. And he got back in touch with a childhood love he had of horses, and we were talking with him, and he realized that it was a toxic environment where
he was.
unstable environment that he couldn't go back to. And so we just started talking to him. What would you like to do? What do you imagine an environment that you would feel supported in? Oh man, I would love to be on a dude ranch. Well, guess what? We found a recovery-based dude ranch
No
in
way.
Washington State.
That's awesome.
And he went there for 3 months
Uh-huh.
and changed his life,
Wow.
I
moved
bet.
to California, got fully involved in the recovery community there. Someone gifted him with a horse.
Wow.
Nice.
He started
Nice.
doing equine therapy, and now he's working on a master's in addiction counseling.
Wow. That certainly is life changing.
That is. That's
Yeah.
a complete.
People change their lives.
Yeah.
People change their lives.
And animal therapy is actually very important in some cases because animals don't judge. They're just there. They love you unconditionally.
Yeah.
And
Unless
You
it's
know
a
who-
Chihuahua.
You know
oh
who?
yeah.
You know, just
You know
gotta
who
clear that up.
our best, most effective therapist is at Serenity Vista? Saba. Saba is our chocolate lab retriever.
Oh, there you go.
She works hard. She's unconditionally loving. She role models meditation and mindfulness,
In other words, she's a bit lazy.
and definitely living in the moment. Where you go for a walk, and if a dog barks at her, she might bark back. 5 minutes later, she's not carrying a resentment.
Yeah,
She's
I wish I
well
could do that,
Well,
right?
she grew up in a loving environment
Yeah,
and a
yeah,
supportive
yeah.
environment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
she's
she-
very secure.
She's awesome.
It's interesting that you brought up when you were talking about this gentleman with his love for horses, that he reconnected with his childhood love for horses, and you know I find that people that have come in and out of my life that have had substance abuse problems, to one extent or another, have kind of gone back to something that they
Yeah.
really have fond memories of.
Yeah.
Whether it be, maybe in high school you were playing in a band and
passion.
you hadn't played, for a while. Perhaps maybe when you were young you rode motorcycles and now you're middle-aged and you're like, well, my wife used to call my motorcycles my mechanical psychiatrist.
Uh-huh.
Because I'd get all bent out of shape out of something, I work in tech, okay, and she'd say to me, go for a ride,
Yeah.
right? And to
I
get on the
can
bike,
relate
and
to that.
Yeah.
you ride,
Yeah.
you get on that bike, and
Yeah.
15 minutes later, you're in a completely different state of
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah. Sailing is like that for me.
Right,
Bicycle riding for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that takes too much effort. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
you're right. A
that's-
lot of people find passions, and many end up within the first couple of years going back to school or studying something new or going into a new career.
I think that stigma kind of does make people think, hey, these people never had any motivation, never had any interest, they just are lost.
Oh.
They don't know what they're doing with their lives, they have no plans. And that's not quite true.
No, no. Alcoholic addicts are some of the most bright and sensitive and creative people that there are. And if anything, alcoholics in particular tend to be almost overwhelmed by their sensitivity and creativity, and they feel almost out of balance with
see
the
that in
emotion,
artists,
and they
yeah.
tune it down, right, with the alcohol,
Yeah.
anesthetize a little bit. And when they get into recovery, they start getting in touch with this creative side of themselves, and are often brilliant people.
Yeah, that, and you know, that so often, you know, substance abuse and mental health. You know, people say, "Oh, you're a loser, right? You're a loser. You can't control
Yeah.
your own
That's
life."
the
You know,
stigma. Yeah.
or you know, or with mental illness.
Yeah.
You know,
You're just breathing air.
you're
here,
just breathing
you know.
air, and you know,
You're
particularly when you
Yeah.
combine those
Yeah.
two, and it
Oh,
ends
that's
up
the
in
big
a
one, weakness.
Weak-willed.
weak-willed, yeah,
Yeah.
especially like with suicide. We
Yeah.
had both of us had Dan Gallagher on our show. He's a licensed,
Yes.
retired licensed therapist,
Yes.
and a specialist in PTSD and suicide prevention, and it's the same conversation
Yeah. the
about
stigma.
the
Yeah.
stigma and about, you know, not feeling comfortable or being afraid to even approach everyone and saying, you know, I'm having a problem
Yeah.
here. I'm having a rough time and I don't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
And I'm having thoughts of either, you know,
Yeah.
going back to behavioral problems or
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
back to the drugs or going back to the alcohol
Yeah.
or thinking about hurting myself.
Yeah.
And to me, these are these are so important.
Yes.
It's so important to be able to feel comfortable in our society, to go and ask for help.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not talking about, you know, TMI on Facebook. You know, legitimately
Yeah.
you're seeking out help and say, I have a problem. I'm
Yeah.
having a problem in my head. I'm having a problem, you know, with my behavior,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I can't stop thinking about having a drink, or I can't stop thinking about, you know.
And I put
yeah.
someone in touch with him that was asking on behalf of a friend
Mm-hmm.
that was about to be put into a bad situation. He's actually a reservist, and he was having PTSD, and he was about to get redeployed to a war zone.
Mm-hmm.
And he hadn't told anybody that he was having these feelings and going through this. So I mean, he's a prime candidate, one, for substance abuse, to take care of those PTSD symptoms. He's a prime candidate to get those suicidal feelings. And if he actually goes back into a war zone, he's actually probably a danger to himself and others.
Yeah.
Well, you're absolutely right. I actually saw that interview on YouTube that you did with Dan,
yeah.
and I had the same feeling that you just identified, that the stigma is very similar with all mental health disorders and diseases, it seems. And from the DSM-4 or 5, you know, addiction, chronic substance abuse is definitely a mental health disorder, and it is treatable, and there's huge stigma. So if people are struggling and realizing that they might be having a problem, you don't have to suffer in silence. You know, they can Google AA.org. In Boquete, aa.boquete.org. There's Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah, a lot of people
good
don't know
f-
that
strong
that's-
fellowship
that's
right
here,
here
yeah.
in Boquete. Very strong English-speaking community, and now with the era of Zoom as well, Zoom meetings all over the world.
Yeah.
So the support is there, and you don't have to be alone.
Yeah, and you know, it's particularly, this is from my personal observation and from talking to other people, it appears to me that there's more of a stigma against men because we're raised, you know, be strong,
Be strong, be
don't
stoic.
cry, don't you know, express your feelings.
And
you
real
know.
men drink beer like in the Budweiser
Man
commercials,
up.
right?
Right, you
Everyone,
know.
every,
And the
every
Latino
young guy
culture
wants to be
even.
like the guy in the Budweiser
Yeah.
commercial.
Yeah, hey, you know,
They used to want to be the Marlboro Man.
I
now
could
they
thank
wanna
the
be
Marlboro Man. I'm smoking for, God, 47 years,
Yeah.
thanks to the Marlboro Man. And well, seriously, that's me. But
Admit
yeah,
your
it's these
addiction.
influences that we grow up with. And
Yeah.
I noticed that the women that have come in and out of my life, friends, family, they are more willing to talk about their feelings. They're more willing to explore those areas and ask for help, even if it's just among their girlfriends.
But they also tend to be the group that's less noticed, but they tend to be the ones that abuse the benzodiazepines more than anyone.
Yeah. But
At
us,
least in
you
my
know,
experience. I don't know about your experience. My amateur experience is that the women seem to abuse the benzodiazepines,
Now,
but
what
it's considered.
let's pretend we don't know what Bienzabeb is.
Okay, that's like your
the
Xanax,
Valiums,
the
lorazepams,
Valiums,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
clonazepams,
Yeah,
Klonopin.
Klonopin, yeah. And it tends to be more women, and it's more acceptable for the women to take
Yeah.
these things.
And thanks for asking us to clarify that, because that's not a well-known fact that benzodiazepines are highly addictive.
They
When
are.
they first came out, I remember in the pharmacy world, when Valium first came out, it was promoted by Roche as being non-addictive. And in the rat studies they did at the time, over the 5 days, they didn't show drug dependency, but they are highly addictive, and people have a really, really hard time coming off of them.
It's difficult
Yeah.
because especially the ones that are using them for sleep or for anxiety, they tend to have that rebound effect if they
Should
stop
never be
using
taking
it.
a benzodiazepine more than 5 to 7 days. That's
Right.
it.
It's
so it's meant
impossible.
to
It's
be
impossible to get people off of them.
it's meant to
Very
be a
hard.
short term.
Oh
'Cause
yeah.
I know people that have been on this stuff for years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. And as a doctor, it's a kind of our dilemma. If we don't prescribe it, then they're going to go through these severe withdrawals. They're not going to die from them for the most part, but
Not from withdrawal, but like alcohol, people
Yeah.
have died in
Convulsions.
overdose.
overdose too. Yeah,
yeah.
and people don't
Yeah.
think that you can overdose on a benzodiazepine, but you can.
Yeah,
Especially if you're mixing it with alcohol, which many people do.
yeah.
Yeah.
And seizures in withdrawal have
Seizures
happened.
have
and,
happened.
And with all the CNS depressants, alcohol, benzodiazepines, tranquilizers, all can cause seizures in withdrawal.
Right, and a seizure can lead to death, especially if
Absolutely.
you vomit and
Absolutely.
but
Yeah.
it's really, they're supposed to be only given, as you said, for a few days,
Yep.
3 to 5 days max,
Yep.
at the lowest dose possible, just to get someone to either get back into their normal sleep cycle or something. Because after that, it's really going to be hard to take that away from the person. And I receive people all the time. They've been taking 2 different ones for a long time, and it's really hard to convince them. Okay, try every other day. It just doesn't.
Yep.
Well,
Click.
how does that? Okay, if you're a physician, right? You're a doctor, and someone comes to you and they have a legitimate need for this medication, and you give it to them for 3 to 5 days. How do they obtain it every? I mean, like I said, I know people that have been on these things for years. How do you get them?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
well,
guessing
it's
that
really difficult because they can go from doctor to doctor, for one.
okay.
By prescription.
Yeah, and get a prescription. We can give up to a month. That's it. And there's a maximum amount that you can prescribe per month, and
Now
that's
that's
what we
here
get.
in Panama. Now,
That's here in Panama.
In North
Pa-
America,
Panama
is
is
that?
a bit unique relative to our experience in North America. Panama is pretty advanced that way. Opiates are not indiscriminately prescribed here.
No,
Yeah.
only for
It's
cancer,
very,
really.
Very rare that
Yeah.
people are prescribed.
Yeah.
You go to the dentist for an extraction, you'll get an NSAID.
Yeah.
An
And
ibuprofen
Tylenol.
type of a medication.
Maybe
a little bit
when I
more.
had all my teeth fixed,
Yeah.
I brought my own lidocaine, Anbesol that I had brought back from the States
No.
because she was getting me with that needle. I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, what about the numbing? What?
Yeah.
No, I'm like, here, just put this on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the main drugs of abuse or addiction issues that we're seeing in Panama are alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, and gambling.
Gambling.
Cocaine and gambling are big in Panama City. It's especially young men. It's a big problem.
Wow. Yeah. I know that alcohol is a significant issue, not just in Panama, but in several of the
Around the world.
particularly though here in Central and South America, it seems to be more of a cultural.
Yes.
A cultural issue,
And in
that's
the
not a
retirement
judgment by
community
any.
that we have here
scientific
too,
method.
people come to retire, and when you first retire, it's like you're going on a vacation.
Oh, yeah.
And what do most people do on a vacation? They have a few drinks. And for most people, that's perfectly fine and healthy.
Right, yeah.
But the vacation doesn't end.
No,
Yeah.
no.
And a lot of people in the retirement community are having difficulty, women as well.
Yeah.
And women, especially in more senior years that start drinking and it becomes a little bit of a problem, it can go to a severe problem much more quickly in
in a
women
shorter
than in
period
men.
of time,
Yeah.
yeah. I know people, they make jokes about day drinking and
Yeah,
and all stuff
yeah.
like that. But if you're having a shot of vodka at 9 o'clock in the morning, that's probably a good indication that there's a problem there.
If you can't wait until the evening to get your fix of your wine or your alcohol, then and you're saying,
And the
oh,
person who's suffering is usually the last one to realize that they have a problem.
Yeah.
Their spouse, their friends, like you said, if someone's joking about having vodka for breakfast, to them it's a joke, and that's the way they deny it is by making a joke out of it and try to normalize it and say, hey, come over and let's have an eye opener together, because misery loves company, right? They want to normalize it, but their spouses, their friends, the community, they all see it.
Yeah, and a lot of from what I've seen, my growing up in my family, we from the time as early as I can remember, I'm talking 3, 4, 5 years old, we always had a couple of bottles of wine with dinner. I'm Sicilian. That was a cultural thing.
It's a cultural and probably
so
very normal and healthy.
But we did have members of my family that really they would drink all the time.
Yeah.
To the point where I had one cousin who literally drank all day. Would probably go through a couple of bottles of vodka every single day, functioning perfectly. No. Well,
that's called tolerance
from the outside, right? And I'm like, how in the world can you drink? And I generally, as a rule, don't drink because I take medication for Parkinson's and a bunch of stuff, so I stay away from alcohol. And when I have the rare times when I have a beer, I'm like the one-hit wonder. I have a beer and I can't drive. I'm like, you only had one beer? And I was like, no, I can't. I could recognize the fact that if I had a swerve or something, I wouldn't be able to do it. And then I see people drinking, liters of vodka and tequila every day.
That didn't happen in one day, though. That happened over time.
It happens over time. Tolerance builds up.
But I look at these. I look at these people that I've known my whole life, and I see a pattern. And the pattern is a string of failed relationships. They can't keep a spouse. They can't keep a significant other. Their kids don't talk to them anymore. And
those are the consequences.
As they get older, it gets worse. Nobody wants to be around them. Nobody. And I've talked to the exes, right? And they're like, I don't like being around drunk people. Or people who are high all the time. And they, after a while, they just give up because their efforts, they're too close to the situation, right? So they're seen as nagging. And then the relationship falls apart and they go away. And that's a shame because before the problem started, these two people are like perfect together.
Yeah, alcohol or benzodiazepines, they are not the problem. 85% of the population drink alcohol socially. It might be part of their culture, might be part of their religious tradition.
Probably daily.
Champagne at New Year's is normal. But 10 to 15% of the population become chemically dependent. And addiction, I talked about it being a disease of feelings. Another way to think of it is continuing to go back to the substance or the behavior despite negative consequences. Almost every teenager has had a drunk where they swore they would never do that again. And they learn from that, and they don't. But the alcoholic will have experiences like that and say never again, but the next week or the next month you're doing it again, or the failed relationships or the DUIs. And keep going back to it despite best intentions and realizing that there is this negative consequence, but here I am, I don't know why or how, but here I am, I'm back picking up a drink again.
I'm never drinking again.
Oh yeah, and then they drink the hair of the dog that bit them the next day, and they're like, great to go on for the next night to
Mark
keep
Twain
partying.
said, quitting smoking is easy. I've done it thousands of times.
Oh, I can. I'm with you on that. Shannon and I have talked greatly about my efforts to stop smoking, and for a while, I was in that denial thing, that saying, well, none of this crap works.
Yeah,
You
not
know,
even the meetings were working.
I have tried, hypnosis, Wellbutrin, the patch, gum, and everything. Finally, I just had to realize that, this is just me. On some level, I'm not ready yet.
Yeah.
And
I thank you for being so honest about bringing that point up. Nicotine is a powerful addictive substance. It's milligram per milligram. It is the most chemically addictive substance known to man. It is more addictive than crack cocaine.
But
That's
it's
why
so very
so many
accepted.
people have a hard time stopping. We're one of the few rehabs in the world that we are completely abstinent of all addictive substances, including nicotine. So we know that we lose business with people not wanting to come to us when they realize that smoking cessation is part of our program.
Yeah.
Probably about 30% of the people who come to us are regular smokers, over a pack a day.
Yeah.
Two of our three people right now over a pack a day.
Yeah.
And that's part of the program. We help them very, very, very quickly come off with the patch. We don't put them on the patch for months.
Right.
Like
Like
the
they
label
want you to.
instructions. We get them off 5 to 7 days, very, very quickly, because pharmacologically, it's like coming off of cocaine.
Yeah.
I mean, the half-life of nicotine is like an hour.
Yeah.
People come. That's why
Or
people
less.
smoke so frequently.
Yeah.
And they go in and out of feelings like a yo-yo.
Yeah.
So we help them come off very, very quickly, tapering with the patch, and then it's part of the whole program.
Yeah.
And almost without exception, I love this at breakfast. 2 or 3 weeks in, I'll say, "So, Joe, how many days has it been since you had a cigarette?" And he'll actually have to stop.
And count. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's been 11 days.
Yep. Yep.
They are amazed because it is part of the program. They're dealing with their feelings every session, every meal. So, how are you feeling, Joe?
So when they come into your facility, if smokers do come into your facility,
And they do. Yep.
they come in knowing that
They
this
know.
is, and they're ready for that. They're prepared.
They
they're
agree
prepared
to
for
that up front before they come. They know
Yeah.
that there's going to be that smoking cessation is part of that. We always encourage people, have your last cigarette before you get on the plane. Don't bring any paraphernalia with you. Don't bring lighters.
Right.
And as soon as they
Things
come,
to
we get
remind
them
you
to
of it.
wash their clothes and everything in their suitcase to get
Yep.
rid of the smell,
smell,
that
yeah.
permeates everything.
Yeah.
And it's like a fresh new start.
Yeah.
They've come to Panama. They're non-smokers. And they're amazed, and before
Well,
they know it, their energy is coming back, their taste is coming back.
Yeah.
We go for a vigorous walk every morning with Saba the dog before breakfast, and usually after a week or two, they're going, "Oh my God, my lungs are clearing up. I feel better."
Well, no,
None
we're-
of that cough.
I know, right? Tell me about it.
Yeah.
I have to, I'm standing on line when we were doing the quarantine thing, when the lines were real long
Yeah.
to get in the store. I am a heavy smoker. I'm probably up to almost 2 packs a day. I have been way beyond that. I would go through a carton in a
It's
week.
powerful.
And I'm online, and you get that tickle in your throat, and I start coughing, and everyone's like, they're moving away from
Well,
me.
that's
They're
one
like,
way
"You
to
got the
clear the
COVID."
line. That's one way to clear
But
the line.
is it true, and like I said, this is just a guess on my part, but is it true that there's a certain amount of fear involved in going into any kind of a program to get off of substance abuse? Because I tell you what, from personal experience, when I'm driving in my car and I run out of cigarettes and I know I got an hour to get to where I can get another one,
It's almost panic.
it is.
Yeah.
No, not almost.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And the thought of quitting frightens me on a
Absolutely.
level of that I can't even, look, we're former Marines. We're not supposed to be, right? But, when it's Friday and the stores are closed on the weekend and I got a pack of cigarettes left, I'm like, how am I going to stretch this out? And literally, like an addict, you go through your car, your garbage, it's trying to find little clips. And it's so surreal,
Yeah.
right? Doing
It's
this.
powerful.
And the thought of not
Yeah.
smoking
Yeah.
is it produces a fear
Yeah.
because I don't want to go through this. I don't want to deal with these feelings.
Yeah.
I don't want
And
the anxiety.
that's what a lot of addicts
Yeah.
go through when
Yeah.
they're withdrawing.
Well, fear can either be, false evidence appearing real, or face everything and recover. And we tell people when they
Yeah.
come to our
Face
program, you
everything
know
and
what? You
recover.
don't
Good, I like
have
that,
to
yeah.
do this. You don't have to do this.
Yeah.
You have proven to yourself that you yourself, with your own willpower, God bless you, you got strong willpower, but your best intellect, you are unable. to fix this and
Yeah.
face those fears on your own.
Yeah.
Come to us and trust us.
Yeah.
Let us guide you through the process. You don't have to do anything. You just have to take our instruction.
Just be there
And it's a complete relief to people to walk in the door and sit down and go, okay, tell me what, where am I supposed to be for lunch? What's the book you want me to start reading this afternoon? And slowly by surely, they start unraveling. They start trusting, and they start realizing that not only can't they do it alone, but they can do it with help. So they alone can do it, but they can't do it alone.
So they come from the point of view of, I can't do this, I can never do this, I'm afraid to do this will never work, I failed so many times.
And it's the cry for help, and then accepting the help with it's like a psychic change of accepting help through an act of surrender. It's a surrender.
And that takes a lot of courage in itself.
A lot of courage.
Well, you know, they
faith.
say admitting,
Letting
admitting
go.
you have a problem is the first step. But, a lot of people that suffer with substance abuse or even behavioral problems, it's easy to make that claim. Yeah, I know this is bad for me. I know I shouldn't be eating, I'm diabetic, right? I shouldn't be eating Pop-Tarts for breakfast,
Right.
which I do, I know.
Yeah.
And
That part, you're right, is a no-brainer.
I know.
It's the total surrender that people struggle with at first. Yeah.
Yeah, and the program. I'm just gonna make one little comment, and I know we don't have much time left, so then you're gonna finish because
I'm gonna finish.
this is your yeah.
This is my
yeah.
thing. No,
This
you're
is our
better.
thing.
You're better at the finishing.
But I talk a lot too. I'm very chatty. Well, not Kathy. What would be Chatty Charlie? Yeah.
that works.
But the program that you guys have offers that. Let me just surrender everything to you. You tell me what to do. You direct me. You guide me, and it's on the clients. It's on the onus is on the clients to trust you, but you provide an environment that will foster that level of trust.
Right, and usually they have quite a bit of interaction with us before they come. They find us on the internet, they fill out a little form, or they contact us through our website, serenityvista.com, and then we talk, we communicate, email, we'll chat back and forth. We have a page on our website. It says a typical day. So we explain to them what a typical day is like. They know what. On a high level, they know what they're coming for, but it's still once they walk in the door, it's a huge act of trust. It's a huge trust, and we really honor that. We know this is not easy for people, and they're trusting us with their lives.
Yeah,
it's
that's a leap of faith. Actually,
a
is
huge leap of faith.
what it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
But it's also probably a relief because they're going somewhere that somebody actually understands
Yes.
them and
Yeah.
what they're going through.
Total
and,
relief.
And it's a safe place where they can talk about it
Yeah,
and
they're
not
not
feel
judged.
yeah,
Yeah.
judged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably
certainly
the
more effective than your family saying you need to quit drinking.
yeah.
How'd that work out for you?
Yeah, you need to quit smoking now.
We like to think that we create
That
and
worked.
provide a loving environment until they remember how to love themselves.
Yeah. And that, and I know, I'm sorry.
No,
That whole
go for it.
concept of loving yourself, that's, for a lot of people, that's nearly impossible to do, especially if you've got a history of having self-esteem problems, self-confidence issues. That's almost
And
as
you're
hard
letting
as
yourself down
Yeah.
by continuing the same behavior that
Yeah.
you know is
Yeah.
doing you harm.
That's
So
gotta
And if you got low
that's-
self-esteem, what do you want to do to compensate for it? You have this huge ego.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Inferiority complex with egomania.
Yeah.
That often goes together, you're right. And that makes it really difficult to ask for help. But asking for help is always the beginning. It's always the beginning.
Does it usually, in your experience, does it take a little bit of time to gain that person's trust online so that they just decide, okay, yeah, I'm actually going to do this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes people will find us on the internet, phone us, and like the one that just came from Ontario. A couple days later, he's here. He actually called us and said, "I'm here." He was in Panama City. Really?
Like, okay.
And some people will,
Yeah.
email and talk back and forth for months.
Before they feel comfortable. I assume you also have some that just stop writing eventually and just never. You
Lost
kind
the
of
contact. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We probably about, I don't know, 5% of the people that contact us actually end up coming. Yeah.
So how much time do we have left here?
We've got, looks like 5 minutes. Thank you, Bolivar.
What I usually do is I let you put out a message that you want to get out there. You know, I ask a lot of questions, you ask a lot of
Yeah,
questions, but
yeah.
what do you really want people to know about the program, about addiction, about, you know, looking for help, asking for help?
Well, I feel that we've already covered quite a bit of
We
that
have,
in
we
our
have.
very robust conversation, and I really appreciate this. It feels like we touched upon a lot of
I
facets.
think we did.
I wish we
didn't
had a
drill
3-hour
down
show.
on
I
a lot
know,
of things,
3
but
hours
we
would be
really
great.
did touch on a lot. And I just want
Did
people
we miss
to,
anything?
I think the most important thing, it's more of just a re-emphasis, is that it's not a moral failing. It's not that you're weak-willed. If anything, you're very strong-willed. You know, think of the manager at a company who goes in every Monday morning with this horrible hangover, puts a plastic smile on his face and conducts a meeting. That takes willpower.
Yeah.
I can't even
If
conduct a meeting
anything,
sober.
the beginning is realizing that there's something wrong, that there's something inside that's not feeling right. I'm having some negative consequences, and I try to stop this, and it just keeps getting worse. And the help starts with just saying the word help and reaching out. And not everyone needs to come to a place like Serenity Vista. We're there if people want our help. But there's also help that's freely available. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. Alcoholics Anonymous, AA.org.
Yeah.
AA.org.
Look them up.
No, they're and
Go to a
Al-Anon
meeting.
too.
Allow yourself to be
Al-Anon.
supported.
Yeah.
And if you want some extra help and want to really dig deep and want to change your life, there are places like what we offer. Yeah.
And obviously, if anybody's out there going, okay, I need help with this, I need probably a little bit of medical help, and then into a program or something, then, you know, by all means, if you think you have a problem, go visit your doctor, and your doctor will help you determine if you've got a problem.
And we have one right here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Where's that? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we can obviously point you in the right direction. We can help get you that help that you need. I'm not an expert. I can't, you know, do everything, but we can help medically.
You're triaging.
We triage,
Yeah.
exactly, and
Yeah.
we send to the place that will help you the most.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many people out there that are willing to help that are not going to be judgmental, and if you're ready to get help, then you go out and look for it where you have to, and we get you the right help that you need. If you come to us, we'll help you get off the substance and then send you where you got to go.
Well, and
And
like
if
you
you're sick and
mentioned,
tired,
Yeah.
if you're
Alcoholics
sick and tired
Anonymous
of being
here.
sick and tired,
If you're sick and tired of me, yeah.
if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, there is a way out, and a life of recovery, one day at a time, living life on life's terms, is nothing less than miraculous, and it's a gift of life, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think
highly recommend it.
I think you pointed out something really important. It's a lifetime of recovery. You don't recover
Exactly.
in 2 months, 3 months.
It's not like it's not just kicking a habit. It's not just stopping. It's not just putting a plug in the jug.
No.
That's the beginning. That's the gateway. And then it's learning how to live life on life's terms with peace and contentment and serenity.
And that's
why we call
basically
it
for
Serenity Vista.
Well,
that's basically for the rest of your life. You're always going to
Recovery is a lifelong process,
this
one
is-
day at a time.
This is why you always hear it referred to as I am a recovering
I'm
alcoholic.
recovering
I'm a
alcoholic,
recovering
yes.
addict, because nobody's really truly recovered. You're an alcoholic for the rest of your life.
Like a diabetic
Right. Yeah.
who's maintained on insulin and can live a normal, healthy life as long as they remember to take their insulin every day and check their blood sugar.
Yeah. Check your blood
Exactly.
sugar every day.
every day.
Every day.
Sometimes twice or 3 times a day.
I know.
I know, okay.
Shannon's also my doctor too. So you know, as in addition to being
She's a great
one of my
doctor.
great
We're
friends.
blessed
Thanks.
to have her in Boquete.
Yes. Oh,
Now I'm
everyone
blushing.
loves
And I
Shannon.
appreciate
go
your
hide in the
sensitivity to
hole.
addiction. not all physicians are, as you well know. It's
Yeah.
not that well understood in
It's
a
not,
lot of
and
medical
I look for
communities.
help when I need
Yeah.
it to get advice on patients about the addictions and helping somebody deal with it, and where I can go to get help for them as well. I'm not, you know, I don't have all the knowledge in the world, but I do look for it, and I appreciate your help. I appreciate your help, and you know, not everybody's equipped to deal with it. Not everybody has the patience to deal with it. So
Yeah.
I learn from every single patient I get.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
It's 11 o'clock, so our hour has flown by.
It really has.
But
Yeah.
really want to thank John Derry for being on the show today. It has and Shannon for for organizing all this. I hope we can do this again.
Yeah, we really should do it again.
I feel like there's so many things that we've left on touch.
We touched the surface.
Yeah.
We
But-
touched the surface.
And now you don't have a show tomorrow.
I'm not going to have the show tomorrow. I decided to go ahead and combine my show with yours.
Right? Yeah. But next Saturday.
But next Saturday I should be on the air unless something happens like a lockdown or something
Right.
like
Don't
that.
even say those words.
I'm sorry.
Okay. You have been listening to but SerenityVista.com.
Yes.
Serenity
Serenity
Vista, and I'll post that with my post promo show. Thank you everyone for your time. I appreciate every single one of you. You have been listening to the combination Boquete Now Talk Radio and
talking with your doctor.
Boquete Now sponsored by Big Daddy's Grill and ACCB Boquete, our newest sponsor. And if you don't know who they are, well, we're going to have them on the show. I think once a month we're going to have an ACCB
Awesome.
special. We're still working on that.
Awesome.
Thank you very much, my friends. Paso un día, mi amigos, mi amigas, and hermanos y hermanas. We'll see
Have
you.
a great day.
See you next week.
Thank you.
Yeah.